Okay, so like imagine this. You're driving home late, right? It's dark. And suddenly, bam, some car swerves into your lane, like right in front of you, and then just keeps going like nothing happened.
Oh man, that's scary.
Right. And without a dash cam, it's like your word against theirs, you know?
Yeah.
No proof.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in.
Exactly. That's why we're doing this deep dive today.
Into the world of dash cams.
Yes. Specifically, we're looking at this DYNACAM dash cam front and rear model. It's the 4K plus 1080p one.
Oh, yeah. I've heard some good things about those.
We've got like a super detailed review here that we're going to break down.
Awesome. Let's see if this DYNACAM is worth the hype.
Right. Is this the one? Let's get into it.
Okay, so first thing that jumps out at me with this DYNACAM is the video quality.
Yeah, they're really emphasizing that 4K Ultra HD front camera and the 1080p rear camera.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Imagine you need to read a license plate after like a hit and run.
Oh, totally. That 4K detail could be like the key piece of evidence.
Exactly. Think about where you usually drive, too. Are the roads well lit or kind of dark?
Yeah, good point. This resolution might be a game changer depending on your situation.
Definitely. And speaking of low light conditions, we got to talk about night vision.
Oh, yeah, that's where a lot of dash cams like totally fail.
Right. But this DYNACAM uses something called super night vision.
Super night vision, huh? Sounds fancy.
It is. It relies on these Sony Starvis sensors.
I'm not super familiar with those. What makes them so special?
Well, they're known for like capturing way more detail in low light compared to like your standard CMOS sensors.
Oh, wow. So it's not just like a marketing gimmick.
No, it seems
Yeah.
like the real deal, but it's always good to compare how other brands in this price range perform too.
That's a good point. Always got to do your due diligence.
Yep. So far though, this DYNACAM's looking pretty promising.
Agreed. But okay, let's get practical for a second. How easy is this thing to actually use?
Well, it's got built-in Wi-Fi.
Oh, so you can like transfer files straight to your phone?
Exactly. No more messing around with cables and SD cards.
That is super convenient, especially if you need to like quickly share footage with the police or your insurance.
Totally. But there's one thing the review mentions. The app can be a bit glitchy.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, it seems like a common problem with dash cams, though.
Ugh, that's so annoying. Like, why can't they just make a good app?
Right. It's definitely something to keep in mind. You don't want to be stuck with an amazing camera and a terrible app.
Totally. A
Yeah.
nightmare scenario. Okay, so moving on, what about storage?
The DYNACAM comes with a 64 GB SD card.
That's like a decent amount, right?
It's a good starting point for sure, especially since it's included.
You don't have to buy it separately.
But here's the thing, 4K video files are huge GE.
Oh, right. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you might only get a few hours of recording before it starts doing this thing called looping.
Looping. Okay, hold on, back up. What does that mean?
So loop recording basically means that when the SD card gets full, it starts recording over the oldest footage.
Oh, so you only keep the most recent recordings.
Exactly. So something happens like a week ago.
You might not have that footage anymore.
Right. So think about how much you drive, like your daily commute, weekend trips, even just running errands.
Yeah, those short trips add up.
Exactly. You might need a bigger SD card depending on your driving habits.
Okay, another thing to consider. All right, what about parking mode? I see the DYNACAM offers 24-hour parking surveillance.
Oh yeah, that's a big plus, especially if you park on the street a lot.
Yeah, that peace of mind is worth a lot.
Totally. The camera basically starts recording if it detects any movement or impact while your car is parked.
That's amazing. But, okay, what about my car battery? Will it die if this thing's on 24/7?
That's a good question. It can be an issue, especially with older cars.
So what can you do about that?
Well, the review mentions a hardwiring option.
Hardwiring, so like connecting it directly to the car's electrical system.
Exactly. That way it doesn't drain your battery.
But there's got to be a catch, right?
Yeah, usually hardwiring involves professional installation.
Oh, so more money?
Yep, another trade-off to think about.
Ugh, so many things to consider. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the good stuff about the DYNACAM, but what about any potential downsides? Anything we should be wary of?
Well, one thing that jumped out at me in the review was the lack of driver assistance features.
Like what?
Like lane departure warnings or collision alerts, those sorts of things.
Are those really that important, though? I mean, isn't the main purpose of a dash cam just to record what's happening?
Yeah, that's true. But those extra safety features are becoming pretty standard these days, especially on the pricier models.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're looking for in a dash cam. Are you okay with just the basic recording features, or do you want all those extra bells and whistles?
Good point. It's all about finding that balance. Okay, so we've talked about what this DYNACAM does well, what it doesn't do so well, but how does it actually compare to like the other big players out there?
Right, so there are a couple of popular models that we should probably mention, like the Viofo A129 Duo, and then there's the Garmin Dashcam Mini 2.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of those. Those are like the big names in the dash cam world, right? Pretty much. Yeah, so how does our DYNACAM stack up? Well, it seems like it might actually have an edge when it comes to resolution in that 24-hour parking mode, especially at its price point.
Interesting.
But then you have those potential app issues, and the storage limitations could be deal breakers for some people.
Yeah, for sure. It's always frustrating when a cool gadget is let down by something like a buggy app
Yeah.
or not enough storage space.
Definitely a good thing to keep in mind.
Totally. We'll be sure to include links to those other models you mentioned in the show notes so everyone can go check them out and do their own comparison.
Yeah, good idea. Always good to do your research.
Speaking of research, something I'm curious about that the review didn't really touch on is heat resistance.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I mean, dash cams, they just sit on your dashboard all day baking in the sun, especially during the summer.
Right. They must get incredibly hot.
Exactly. And that kind of heat can really mess up electronics over time.
It's definitely something to consider.
So is there any way to know how well the DYNACAM handles those high temperatures?
Unfortunately, the review we have doesn't say anything about heat resistance specifically.
Oh, a bummer.
But you know what might be worth doing? Digging a little deeper online, seeing if other users have reported any issues.
Oh, yeah. Good idea. Those online forums and user reviews can be super helpful for that kind of stuff.
Totally. It's like tapping into the collective wisdom of the internet.
I love that the collective wisdom of the internet. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. What are some key takeaways for our listeners who might be considering this DYNACAM?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that choosing a dash cam, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It's really about figuring out your own needs and then finding a model that matches up with those needs.
Right, it's not just about like grabbing the cheapest option or the one with the most bells and whistles.
Exactly. You got to find that sweet spot between the features, the performance, and the price.
And the DYNACAM seems like it hits a decent balance there.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so what are some things people should be thinking about when making their decision? What are like the big factors to consider?
Okay, so first think about how much you drive and where you typically park.
Okay, so that'll help you figure out like how important storage capacity and parking mode are, right?
Exactly, and then definitely pay attention to the quality of the footage itself.
Right, the resolution.
Yep, especially if you're driving at night or in bad weather,
Yep.
you want to be able to actually make out the details if you need to use that footage later.
Totally. So the DynCam's 4K resolution and those Sony Starvis sensors, they seem pretty promising for that.
You do, yeah. And don't forget about ease of use.
Oh, right. You don't want to be stuck with something super complicated.
Exactly. Look for a dash cam with a user-friendly design, intuitive features.
So the DynCam's Wi-Fi capability seems pretty good for that, but we got to remember those potential app issues.
Yeah, true. It could be a pain.
So it sounds like there's a lot to think about when choosing a dash cam.
There is, but don't get overwhelmed. Just start by making a list of your must-have features and then think about your budget. And then you can start comparing models based on that.
And don't forget those online reviews.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those can be so helpful.
It's like having a whole community of drivers giving you their honest opinions.
Exactly. They've been there, done that they can save you a lot of trouble.
So we've really explored this DynCam dashcam inside and out as we wrap up this part of our deep dive. What's your final thought for our listeners who are maybe still on the fence about this model?
I think the DYNACAM has a lot going for it, especially for the price. That 4K resolution, the night vision, and the parking mode, those are all really strong features.
For sure.
But it's super important to weigh those benefits against the potential downsides, like that app connectivity and the storage limitations.
Right. It's all about finding the right fit.
Exactly. The decision ultimately comes down to your own needs and what's most important to you.
Awesome advice. Do your research, compare models, and choose the dashcam that's right for you.
Couldn't agree more.
It's kind of crazy how much thought goes into picking a dashcam these days.
I know, right? Like it's just a little camera,
Yes.
but there's so many things to consider.
Totally. It really shows you how much tech has changed everything.
Absolutely. Even something as simple as driving.
Right. And it's easy to get caught up in all the fancy features and specs.
Oh, for sure. Like you see all the marketing and it's easy to get overwhelmed.
But like we've been saying today, it's really important to just step back and figure out what matters most to you.
Exactly. Like, yeah, a dash cam with all the bells and whistles might sound cool, but if you mostly drive in the city, maybe those advanced safety features aren't as important as having amazing night vision.
Exactly. It's all about matching your needs to the features that will actually make a difference for you.
Couldn't agree more.
And of course, let's not forget the power of user reviews.
Oh, those are crucial.
They can seriously save you from making a bad purchase.
Totally. It's like having a bunch of other drivers tell you what they honestly think.
Exactly, and that can be super valuable.
For sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of dash cams, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
Technology, it never stops changing. What's cutting edge today might be old news tomorrow.
That's so true.
So yeah, don't be afraid to embrace new advancements, but always think critically about them.
Right. Make sure they actually fit your needs.
Exactly. And remember, at the end of the day, the whole point of a dash cam is to make you feel safer on the road.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So that's it for our deep dive into the DYNACAM dash cam. We hope you learned a thing or two, and most importantly, we hope you stay safe out there.
Drive safe, everyone.
And until next time, keep those wheels turning and stay curious.